Hello and welcome. Let's do some more animating with Adobe After Effects. I'm going to open up the project I've been working on the last few videos. First 4 animations. This is the last one I did. Let's play it, shall we? So we got room 234. Booming, right? Totally booming. I can imagine some like hip-hop music behind this. Okay, let me stop this. So we've done a position animation, a scale animation. I'm going to add a new composition to my project panel here, and we're going to deal with opacity. Opacity being how opaque something is, meaning how solid it is versus transparent. Let's create a composition by clicking on this Create New Composition button here in the project panel, or going up to the Composition menu and choosing New Composition. I'm going to call this Opacity Animation. I'm going to use 640 by 480 as the resolution. If you need to change these, you can click and drag on the blue numbers and change it accordingly. If you want to change the ratio of these two numbers, you would uncheck this little lock here if it was already checked. Frame rate 30 frames a second. Duration is going to be 2 seconds again. And let's go with a different background color this time. So for this, let's do something kind of minty. Ooh, yeah, like that. Hit OK. And OK. If you ever want to change the background color or the resolution of this, you would go under the Composition menu and choose Composition Settings or Command K. Okay, so let's add a shape. I think what I'm going to do is we're going to do, so I did Mr. Z, I did room 234. Now I'm going to have my text say Digital Media Arts. So I'm going to start with text this time. And I'm going to go to about 20 frames and use my type tool to start typing. Digital Media Arts. And I'm going to bring my cursor away from the text, drag it over here, and I want all this to be like the same width, even though arts has so fewer letters. That's okay. We're going to figure it out. So we're going to do my little kerning trick here by placing my cursor between letters and just Option on your keyboard and left arrow. I'm going to tighten this up a little bit, especially digital since it's the longest. So I'm just using the arrow key to switch between letters, and then Option arrow to decrease the spacing. So T and A fit nicely together, I think. Here we go. So now for media, it looks like I need to stretch things out a little bit. So I'm Option. That looks good. And then arts, probably want to make arts a little bigger. So let's increase the size. I've highlighted just this text. Now I'm going to adjust the size of the font by clicking and dragging this blue number to the right. Like so. So we're going to get kind of close. And you notice now it's kind of encroaching on this other line here where media is. With arts selected, hold down Option and then go down arrow, and that will, oh, that changes the size of the font. Interesting. There we go. So yeah, I'm holding on the Option key, down arrow, and then now I'm going to move between letters and Option to the right, like so. So kind of cool. You often see, you know, fonts, words laid out in a similar way. I think it looks nice and neat, and it fits nicely in a rectangle, which we're going to use, I think, for this one. So what I want to happen is we're going to start with nothing. It's going to be very similar to the scale animation we just did. So we're going to have Digital Media Arts fade from nothing, and then at 20 frames, it's going to be 100% opaque. I don't need to worry about anchor points on this one because it's not gonna, since the whole thing is just gonna fade at once. So let's make a keyframe for opacity. So to make a opacity keyframe, it is Option and T. Awesome. And then we're going to use the Uber key. So we'll select my text layer, hit the U to close everything, and then U again on the keyboard to open up just opacity. And the keyframe here at 20 frames. Go back to the very beginning in my timeline and change the opacity to 0. So this time I'm just going to click on 100%, type in 0, boom, it goes away, but we'll see it fade like so. Kind of cool. So now what we're going to do is I'm going to have a square, the border. Again, I'm going to work with a hollow outline of a shape, and I'm going to offset the animation a little bit, so it's not going to be totally synced up. I'm going to have my text layer kind of start becoming clear, and then behind it I'm going to have it kind of trailing it time-wise. I'm going to have this rectangular border pop up around it. So let's make the border. Doesn't really matter where we start this because we can always move the keyframes around later. But I'm going to look under my rectangle tool and click and drag over my text. Like so. I'm going to actually undo this. Command Z. Make sure that when you make a new shape or text that you're working on a different layer. So to make a different layer, basically that shape made it right on top of this layer. I'm going to click away from the layer and then add the shape. And you know that's all good because it's giving me my fill and stroke options. Before, when I had the text layer selected, the fill and stroke options were not there. There's a reason for that, but we can explain that later. So I'm going to click away from this font or this layer. And now I've got my fill is empty. It remembered my last setting there. But remember, if you want to change from a fill to an empty fill, you option click through a color and then 2 gradients, and then it's empty. And again, I'm going to use that same stroke of 14 pixels. This time, no, let's do a different color. I don't know, orange might be interesting. Kind of working with a lot of 90s colors here. So I'm going to click and drag now over this, and it creates this cool little box. Fun, fun, fun. Okay. And then I want to kind of deselect this. I'm going to click on the selection tool to click away from this. Awesome. Let's make sure everything is aligned. I want to make sure my shape layer is aligned, so let's go to shape layer, click on the align window. You can also find that under the window menu here and align. But I'm going to click and to center this, so we'll click on the horizontal center alignment and then vertical center alignment. So my original text was a little off. Now I'll take the layer for my text and use the move tool to drag it over. And then you can kind of dial it in by using the arrow keys to get it nice and even. So this doesn't totally line up, but I'm not going to worry about that right now. Okay. Yeah, so we have digital media arts kind of fading in and out. From out to in, I guess we should say. Next thing I'll do is, well, let's continue to, since I want to make this looping, I'm going to have it kind of slowly fade in, and then it's going to quickly fade out. So similar to what we did in the last video, I'm going to create a keyframe that has the same attributes as this last one under the text. So to make a new keyframe, you click on this little diamond here, and then we go to the very end, and under opacity, choose 0. So I've got 4 keyframes, one set at 0, one at 100, another at 100, and then another at 0 again, so it fades in and out. Like so. Okay, let's do the same thing for my border. So click on the shape layer. I want to use these as a reference, so I'm going to click on the type layer, hit the U key so I can see where my keyframes are, and I'll start keyframing my shape layer. So we'll do Option T for opacity, and it opens up all these controls. So I want to close it, clean it up a little bit, select the layer, hit U on the keyboard, and then U again to just show the things that you've animated. Bring my cursor over to this keyframe, Option T, Option T, and Option T. Zbarth, you said you were going to make it mismatch. Well, let's do that in a sec. This one should say 0. So it starts transparent. Whoops. You gotta make sure you're hovered over the keyframe that you're changing. 0. And then 100, and 100, and then this last one should say 0. Like so. So let's play this, and we'll see a very synced up, another kind of beating heart here. Okay. Now let's adjust the timing of these changes. So I said that I wanted to have the square start appearing a little bit later than the text appears. To do that, you just take this first keyframe of the shape layer and scoot it over. So now what's going to happen is the text starts coming in. Then at about 9 frames, the rectangle comes in. But they kind of match up. You can see that. So this, I invite you to kind of play with this. Let's see. You could even have, so I'm going to have the shape come in, start coming in here. They both kind of play for the same amount of time. And then we can have the shape go away first. So remember, this is the point where the shape starts disappearing. Also the text as well. So if I want the shape to go away first, put that anywhere you want. And then I'm going to move this type keyframe over. So here is where the shape starts going away. Here is where the type starts going away. So the timing, they're kind of independent of each other. And whether or not this looks like it makes sense, I'm not really all that concerned about that. I just want to make sure that you can show me, prove to me you know how to change the opacity, animate the opacity of both shape and text. So yeah, cool. Let's export this, render it I should say. So we'll go into the File menu, choose Export, Add to Render Queue, and then tell it where to go. Click on the Output to here where it says Opacity Animation. Yours might say something different, whatever you name your composition probably. If you click on this little link, it opens up the dialog box asking you where you want to save it, what you want to name it. I'm going to call it this, save it on my desktop, click Save. And then that final step, you always have to click Render. There we go. There's the magical chime. And now I've got in my Finder on my desktop my opacity animation, which you would then open in Photoshop to make a GIF. So yeah, enjoy. Remember to open this up in Photoshop, you have to go to File, Import Video Frames to Layers. But by now I think you kind of are pro at doing that, so I'm not even going to demo that for you. Thank you for watching.